Hi, I'm Jenny, and I'm here live from North Metro Fire Department, where they've let me borrow their equipment and some of their wildland gear. Their structural gear is so hot that I think it would be really difficult to wear and do this video. So they let me borrow some wildland gear that they had lying around. So why I think STEM is a valuable education is that it is all about integration. It's about teamwork. It's about real world problem solving. It's students that can contribute to inquiry-based science ideas that are happening all around them. They can go into the community and actually research phenomena and try to solve problems that we are currently facing, and they can get results and they can become part of the scientific community without going to college and beyond and joining the scientific community that way. I think a big piece is that educators can be facilitators through this. They are no longer standing in front of a whiteboard and lecturing about scientific phenomena. They're facilitating student learning. They're letting the students come up with ideas and reflect and build experiments and design and create all these things, and then they're getting to solve them and go into the community or reflect and work as a team. It's important to learn how to work as a team. I can't think of one career that isn't a STEM-based career, has some component of STEM in it now, and yet we all have to work together as employees or coworkers, or with even other companies and stuff. So I think it's a perfect segue to not only learn how to integrate all of those pieces together, but also to work as a team and also have a facilitator as a guide. The other big piece is the community outreach piece. It's amazing for students to get to see how STEM is influenced in our community and that it is truly everywhere. Specifically, I chose to do work with the police departments and the fire departments and show students how STEM can be intertwined in that. It's not just physics and engineering, building buildings and things. It's actually in the fire suppression, it's in the medical, it's in the EMS and the paramedics that come and save you. It's in the crime scene investigation after a car accident or even after a murder or anything like that. So they get to see real life STEM. They get to dive right into real life STEM. They get to see brothers, sisters, parents that work in those fields do STEM. And so I think that's a really awesome piece of the whole STEM integration in general too. And then the other huge thing for me is that a lot of students, as much as we all push for them to go to college, we want them to do further education. I think it's a cool thing that they get to see careers and jobs that aren't necessarily further education based. To be a firefighter and an EMT, you have to go to a fire academy and you do have to get your EMT license, but you don't have to go to college. You can go to a police academy and you don't have to go to college. And so they get to see real world successful STEM careers that aren't, getting doctorates in microbiology, which I think is a really cool piece for every student to see, because everything is attainable. STEM careers are attainable to all races, walks of life, genders, and everything like that. So that's a huge piece. So I pursued this master's because I wanted to get a better understanding of STEM teaching. I wanted to get a better understanding of bringing in the inquiry, being the facilitator, letting students develop plans, reflect on those plans, work together as those plans, and me kind of take a step back instead of, giving them the quadratic equation and having them solve it. So I wanted to become better at that idea, especially because of teaching forensics. I think that students really need to learn how to go into a crime and use deductive reasoning and determine what could have happened and what testing should be done to maybe solve a crime. And they need to look at evidence and all these things and make claims. And so for me, it was a really cool piece to add into all of that learning, and it helped me get stronger as an educator to encompass all those projects for them. And so then therefore that leads into me incorporating all that into the classroom. So I think allowing these students to see that STEM is involved in every aspect of forensics and other classes that they're taking they get to then walk into crime scenes and solve them and make claims in the evidence and get to do all of that learning piece. So it's really cool to incorporate it into my classrooms, and I've really enjoyed doing it. I think it empowers the students. I think it challenges the students more. They find that their ideas are important and that they can maybe truly go out into the real world and become investigators and things like that. So it really empowers them for the future. Okay, so for my field experience, I spent most of it at North Metro Fire Department learning so many things about fire. And then I also spent a bit of the time with the Thornton Police Department, mostly the CSI investigator, Doug Young. Personally, I've worked with Doug Young before. He comes into my classroom every year to talk about the coolest and gruesome crimes that he's had to work on. So it was really interesting and fun to get to work on the side of actually going into the training facility and seeing how firefighters work through motor vehicle accidents or fires, arsons, house fires, like how they do medical treatment to all of those calls, how their equipment works, things they have to train for that you wouldn't necessarily think about in the real world. And then even a fun fact for me was that this an oil company that they were working on how to solve cleanup of oils, they hired North Metro to have firefighters on staff so that they could test these oil cleanup, like they were burning oil that had spilled into an ocean, and that they were developing methods to clean that up more efficiently so that in locations like the Arctic, if an oil spill were to happen, they could put chemicals on it that actually cleaned it up more efficiently than if they sent a bunch of people up there to do it themselves. So they had this huge pool and they were burning all these oils and chemicals, and all the firefighters had to be around watching all of their stuff so that they could make sure that if there was a fire, they could put it out really quick. So not only is there STEM in the firefighting, but there was STEM happening with that research alone in their training facility that I got to see. And I think that that's a really cool piece of that they can hire and work together, and they have that teamwork piece happen. So I really enjoyed the field experience. I got to burn a bunch of stuff down. I got to watch a bunch of fire stuff. I got to watch them train how they would pull people out, how they would look for arson. They built 2 arson houses, and they had these like propane fire tanks and a bunch of old furniture, like couches and beds that were donated, and they like burnt them to the ground. And then they had the firefighters go in there and try to determine if it was an electrical fire or something that was related to arson or something else that they could find. So it was really fascinating to really dive into that world, especially as the investigating piece of forensics, and then seeing what they do on the side. Because side note, forensics, if you're a firefighter, you tend to ruin crime scenes because water destroys evidence. So on the forensic side, they're like, no, firefighters. But on the firefighting side, it's really cool how they can also go in and talk about forensics and see the arson and that kind of stuff and pick up the evidence. So the last thing is the STEM unit. So the STEM unit starts with arson and fire investigation. It starts with a burning house demo. I built a little cardboard house and kind of did the difference between an arson-based fire and an electrical or like a trash can fire, an accidental fire, so kids can see that. I have learned that kids are so much more curious than you will ever expect them to be, and they want to learn, but sometimes they don't necessarily know what they want to learn. So if you kind of like let them explore and you let them maybe build their own firehouse and you let them see fire burning and you kind of like let them, get their ideas all together, they develop stronger understandings of the topics, they ask better questions, and then they dive further into the entire subject area alone, and they come out more excited, and they crave more. So I like to put these types of activities in so that they have that opportunity to do that. It works as well, with toxicology. It works with the human body, like death and decomposition. They get to do a lot of things like that, where I really like to show them what could happen and how they know what will happen and things like that. So then after that, the unit dives into community outreach. So we have guest speakers. Doug Young is one of the ones that would come in, and he would talk about, anything and everything with investigation and cool pieces that tie into fire too. So people can die of carbon monoxide poisoning without there being a fire. And that's one of the bigger pieces of arson is carbon monoxide poisoning. So he can discuss how they would test for carbon monoxide poisoning and how they could do that. It's actually called maggot soup. they can take the maggots that are consuming the body, blend them up, and then they test for carbon monoxide on a dead body and can determine if it was, in fact, carbon monoxide or, say, a drug. Whereas in the field, they actually have really, really cool new technology that actually will test the blood for carbon monoxide poisoning so that they, if you're still alive, they can send you to a hyperbaric chamber to survive. So really cool pieces on both sides of the field that students get to see and have community guest speakers come in and talk about. And then it ends with them building their own safety campaigns. So we go over statistics and how students can see, you know, how fires are started, what's the most common fire, kitchen or accidental or grill fires or things like that, wildland fires, things like that. And they have to build their own safety campaigns. And then they get to present them at the one of the community outreach events. So here we have Broomfield Days, or we have Northland Night Out, and they have a tent set up with a bunch of stuff, and they give pamphlets out and cute little fire hats and goodies to the kids, and, you know, one of those wheels that you can spin. And so they want the students to come in and actually build their campaigns and help them with their campaigns and get to produce the community or get to talk to the community and help them with fire safety that way. So that is the unit. I've really enjoyed getting to work with everybody and learn everything I can and present this unit to my students this year. Thank you.